Okeke kwuo Fasimba. Okorie kwuo the federal government of Nigeria Asimba that they will not release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Now, the lawmakers in Lagos State, which is a Tinubu's own base, they don't come out now and begin to cry and said Tinubu should release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu because there's dangers ahead. Just like what that pastor said. Tinubu, hear this and hear it clear. Everybody call you a stubborn man. But I will tell you that this stubborn is going to land you where you will not expect. It is not a threat, but that is what the word of God have said. They said a stubborn fly always ends up in the grave with a corpse. I will show you the clip where they interviewed most of the Lagos lawyers and the rest of them, and they said that Tinubu don't even need anybody to beg him to release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, that he's supposed to do it without even looking back, not minding what people will say, or not minding what the so-called cabals will say. I know that Tinubu is trying to use Mazi Nnamdi Kanu as a bet against 2027 to capture the votes of the Southeast. But the earlier he do that, the better he capture the heart of the Southeast. If at all there will be 2027 election. I repeat, if you feel that he is going to gamble, and then I said 2027 he release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu so that maybe close to the voting time, release him so that you can get the votes of the Southeast. My brother, that means you want to show the Southeast that you are the wise, forgetting that the wise men and women come from the East. The people you are looking for the vote, you want to play them caricature. I think feeling that you are wise, but you are not wise. You are just with your own wisdom, the wisdom of the foolish. See this clip, and please, as you are watching, make sure you share this clip. Drop your own opinion at the comment section. NANS, National Association of Nigerian Students, have vowed that Tinubu should release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, otherwise they are going to go on strike. Ime Ubong, that is the Nollywood icon, Ime Bishop, don't shout also, release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Tinubu, he jet off to Brazil, normally for his narcotic dealings or whatever it is. No problem. About also, I go a mile. Please watch this clip, and as you're watching, please subscribe, like, share, and comment. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. We dey get current news for you on daily basis. I don't know what I'm still waiting for. Please, let's go there.
Many thanks for staying with us, and of course it's my pleasure to welcome you to the continuation of your news and current affairs program, reaching you live from our Lagos Network studio on the ITV network. I am Joshua Okata. On the program this morning, our focus will be on an appeal for clemency, especially given the fact that a former Lagos lawmaker has made an appeal to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to grant the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB in the person of Nnamdi Kanu a release, or what you call a presidential pardon. And of course, it's interesting, of course, to note that Nnamdi Kanu has been in detention since 2021 following his arrest and, of course, his repatriation to Nigeria from Kenya, and he's currently facing criminal charges in the Federal High Court in Abuja. What's your take as regards this? And of course, to have this conversation this morning with me, I'm being joined by two gentlemen who will be giving us their insightful thoughts as regards this, both from a human perspective and of course a legal angle. In my immediate right here, I have Barrister Jide Ologun, who is a legal practitioner and of course a public affairs analyst. Good morning, Barrister, and thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome, it's my pleasure.
Of course, I have right here in my immediate left, in the person of Bishop James Grant Okocha, who is a public affairs analyst. Good morning, Okocha, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, Nigerians. Always my pleasure to be here.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Now, let's get the ball rolling. Let me start with you, Bishop. What's your view as regards the appeal for clemency by a former Lagos lawmaker for the release or presidential pardon to the IPOB leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu?
Okay, thank you so much. Like you said in the introduction, I'll be speaking from, the humanity dimension of all these whole things. Thank God we have a legal practitioner who will be, pushing us deeper, into, what the law says and all of that. Clemency, if you look at that word, it has eroded argument, whether right or wrong. Clemency is talking about pardon, all right? So when it comes to asking for pardon this person, that means let's forget about the issues around it, and then let's just be human and handle this thing. But before we go further, I would like us to really understand a little bit of the guy in question, Nnamdi Kanu. If you look at 2012 precisely, Nnamdi Kanu was one of the few Nigerians that took a protest to British High Commissioner, in London. And if you look at that protest, he was speaking against the bombing happening in Borno State, not Abia State, not Enugu State. He has done so many advocacy about equal right and justice in the Nigerian state. All right. And then when he pushed from that dimension and it didn't go through, I think, when things are happening, things will be developing from one stage to another before you see him now caved down to the southeast. The southeast and Biafra agitation was not his original intention. Initially, he was speaking for equity, equal right, whether it is in the north, whether it's in the south or anywhere. All right. So considering the fundamental inspiration that pushed him to whatever that happened, you understand that this is a man who does not believe that an entity should be submerged. All right. He's a man who believes that people should have freedom in a country they call their own. He's someone who believes that things should be done well. The way you do to number one person, do also same to number two person. All right. So if you look at this, foundation I just laid, now you will see that despite the things that have happened, personally, I am a man of justice, and then everything Nnamdi did was not wrong, even though his approach, personally, there are approaches that I saw him, display, which wasn't good for me. But fundamentally, we all believe in equal right and justice, So I also join my voice to the Lagos former lawmaker to also ask our president to consider clemency over Nnamdi Kanu's case.
All right. Now, why you maintain that you care about his position on the matter and not about how he conveys his message? Some are also not comfortable about the way he conveys his message, even if he meant well. But let me come back to you, barrister. In the eyes of the law, Nnamdi Kanu has always maintained, at any given opportunity he finds himself, that the jurisdiction of his trial as regards the alleged offense that he has committed is outrightly unlawful. What's your take as regards the jurisdiction where, as he claimed, the offense was committed?
Thank you very much. Let me take us back in history. This issue of Nnamdi Kanu came to the front border around 2015 when former President Muhammadu Buhari won the election as president. And it was then a matter of the Biafran radio. And I recall commenting on that issue, that there is a thin line between violence and peace. And that the way the matter was being driven, you may not tell when it becomes violent. And that is what we have seen in the southeastern part of the country right now. But in 2021, it was picked up in Kenya and brought to Nigeria in a very dramatic way. And he was charged to court for terrorism and other serious crimes, and he pleaded not guilty. But instructively, even the court has come to a conclusion that the way and manner he was brought into Nigeria was wrong. You see, and there had been decisions that release him. But government will quickly rush back, stay of execution. In fact, the Supreme Court even ordered that his trial should resume again. And he's been there. with his own drama, the drama of his lawyers in court and things like that, the close down of business in the southeastern part of the country, then the linking of the insecurity in the southeastern part of the country to the release of Nnamdi Kanu. I mean, the invasion of his family house in the east, which made him to flee from Nigeria, then the senator standing in for him when he was granted bail. So all these things are drama. Let's move out of the purview of the law and let me lay a foundation. The case of MK Abiola was a pursuit of shadow when IBB and his friends annulled the most transparent, freest, fairest in every description of it that took place on June 12, 1993, which eventually led to his incarceration. Eventually, he died in the process. But shockingly, the former President Muhammadu Buhari decided to come out to say, we are not going to celebrate democracy on May 29. Let's bring it to June 12. He even accorded the highest office, the GCFR, to MK Abiola, GCON to Ambassador Babagana Kingibe, his running mate, and GCON to Ganifa Emi, who fought vehemently. So Buhari took the shine.
Correct.
Even IBB, I'm sure after many years of not having a peaceful conscience, came out again when he was launching a book and declared that this man won the election, because by the time Buhari was even doing his own, they were making a statement that presumed winner. He won that election. You people, destabilized it. But where have we come in Nigeria? The president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces is empowered by Section 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended with the executive powers. Yes, he can release Nnamdi Kanu. He can, summon the Attorney General who will withdraw the matter from court. And I respect what Honorable Jude Idimogu is saying. That, and I don't want to be political about it, whether it should bring more votes for APC.
That is a conversation that we're going to have.
Exactly, the Southeast or not.
Yes.
But I believe, like Lord Heward said, which we learned in the Nigerian law school, that justice should not only be done, but clearly seem to have been done. I'm asking a question this morning, and God forbid, if Nnamdi Kanu passes away in the custody of the government, what happens? So,
while we attend to that question,
these are issues.
While we attend to that question, Barrister, while we attend to that question, now, do you think, given your submission that you alluded to, that the manner or the way and manner in which he was, repatriated to the country, is it in violation of his fundamental human right? And do you think that a court of jurisdiction in Nigeria can try him on that offense?
You see, I have mentioned this, that a court declared that the way he was brought to Nigeria was wrong. You see, but when a court makes a pronouncement, you can move to the appellate level. And the matter has gone all the way to Supreme Court. Supreme Court is saying, continue with the trial.
In spite of his rights being infringed on in the way he was brought in? In such a controversial manner?
Since 1963, when Nigeria became a republic, Supreme Court has remained the highest court in the land. Before then, you could further appeal to the Judicial Council Committee of the Privy Council of the UK. So if Supreme Court says continue with the trial, what will Judiciary do? They are the alpha and omega, so to say, in the judicial circle. But I have said now, perhaps not overtly, the president is highly influential. Nobody stopped Buhari from doing what he did. If President Bola Ahmed Tinubu sits down today to say, let's look at these matters, let's look at justice, let's look at, synchronizing the nation, let's bring the sense of belonging to everyone. Because don't forget, the Southeasterners are still nursing the wounds of the Biafran War. They are still looking for the reconciliation. There are still perceived marginalization in the country. So what will it cost the country? Though it has to be with a caveat that, okay, if we release this man, how do you guarantee that there will be peace? And that is an area where I disagree with many analysts. You see, now, unfortunately, there is a culture of violence in the southeastern part of the country, which is totally alienated from Kanu as a person, that even if he is released, the government and the people will still need to do a lot of work to reverse that criminal tendencies, because people have gone into kidnapping, they've gone into different kinds of crime. And so, because an opportunity came for them to start that culture. And just as people get addicted to different things, some are already addicted to crime. So we have deep issues here. But the starting point, like the elders will say, if trees fall upon one another, you carry the top one, then the next one. If he is released, it will douse tension. And I hope he also will be ready to move in the direction of that clemency. Because if you know the person of Nnamdi Kanu, a man who will tell his lawyer to shut up in court and challenge judge and things like that. You see, they say he who fights and runs away lives to fight another day. And so these are all the issues. But
right.
Politically speaking and diplomatically speaking, it's a brilliant opportunity for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And if you ask me for my personal opinion, if the court has pronounced, whether it was knocked off later or not, that this man was illegally brought into the country by the government, I think justice should be done.
All right. Now let me fall back to you, Bishop, to get the human angle from this. Yes, the lawmaker has made an appeal. And if, from what you've just said, should be looked into, it's not a bad idea. But what some Nigerians are not comfortable and so much concerned about is the fact that you have to make, politics out of everything. Now, talking about the issue of his release and of course being granted presidential pardon, what has that got to do with 2027? Saying that if Nnamdi Kanu is being released, the party's fortune is secured for 2027. What's your take on that?
Well, to a very large extent, the answer is yes. But personally, I do have a problem with how the Nigerian state, runs, because we try to politicize everything. Bringing politics into this, fine. After all, he's a political prisoner. And this case is something that would have been averted if, when it was starting, and the then president, had a round table and said, let's discuss it. It wasn't faceless. The agitation was not like what Boko Haram is doing. And then, when there is a denial of equity, things keep growing. People that have bombed Nigerians, butchered them, some Boko Haram terrorists, they were pardoned, they were forgiven. So when certain things are happening, you see, people will be getting, there are roles that the government play as a den that, really provoked, not just Nnamdi, but fortunately, I'm from the same state where he came from. All right? Like if you go to Bro, I've traveled around this nation. That's where you are having, people claiming that this place should not be, it should be ISIS, controlled area. But the kind of military check that you see in the east cannot be compared. In the east, there is a place, especially in Anambra State, you have to come down from a vehicle, raise your two hands as though it's a war situation. So there were certain steps that the government took then that were absolutely provocative, because everyone has emotion. All right? And these things, politically, there is a way you will still take that step, because the South is not liking the APC to an extent. Those years was because of the way they felt marginalized and treated. All right, and there is nobody you treat well that will not respond better. So if the president, releases him, I know he will score political points. So many people will be, will say, okay, since this our president right now, I think he's looking towards the direction of justice. Well, why don't we give him a chance?
Okay, you have made your points, but we have to take the conversation further. But before we do just that, I hear we just have to go for a short break, and when we return, we'll take the conversation further. Please do stay. All right, thank you so much for staying with us. It's still your news and current affairs program, and we've been talking about the clemency appeal made by a Lagos lawmaker on behalf of IPOP leader Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, and we've been having several human and legal perspective to this particular conversation. Now let me go back to you, barrister. Please, for the sake of our viewing audience, this particular word seems more like a very big vocabulary, and would like you to break it down in bits for those who are watching. Nnamdi Kanu currently is facing a criminal charge of criminal conspiracy and intimidation and membership of an illegal organization in Nigeria. Please, what do you make out of this?
Recall that at a point, IPOP was declared as a terrorist group, and some argue, out of perception, that what about Boko Haram and ISWAP and things like that? But like I said, the president of this country, whoever occupies that office, has tremendous power, you know. And when you look at those charges, they are heavy charges with heavy penalties. But interestingly also, you know, that some cases may just go on forever in this country. For instance, the case of Emefiele, I still don't know when it will end, whether it will run the whole course of this president's terms in office. And that is why he pleaded not guilty. And in the criminal justice ecosystem, those allegations must be proved beyond all reasonable doubt before he is convicted, which we call the burden of proof. You know, it's on the prosecutor, and then we call it presumption of innocence under the Nigerian Constitution. So as we speak now, he's still presumed innocent.
So so are you saying that this is not a prima facie case, as the case may be?
Even when you have a prima facie case, you still need to prosecute to come to a conclusion. And that's why many are worried that with all the allegations against Donald Trump, he still became the president of America. That is the law for you. I will give you an instant case which we mentioned in this wonderful studio. The case of the former governor of Ekiti State, Ayodele Bayoshi, who submitted himself to EFCC on allegations of corruption. He even printed a t-shirt, and he returned some money to EFCC. So if you have not stolen, why are you returning money? But recently, after many years, he has been discharged, acquitted and discharged for lack of diligent prosecution. So if you don't prosecute the case, what happens? So those are allegations. But now, let me go back to one of the points that the former legislator in Lagos State, Honorable Achiwogu, mentioned, that the Eastern leaders should speak with one voice. And I agree with that. And I have also raised this issue in this studio. When Igboho was apprehended in Benin Republic, how was he released? I mean, you need to study diplomacy. I mean, it's a big question. He was also in a similar situation under former President Muhammadu Buhari. How was Igboho released? Now, when some Yoruba agitators came up, this one, Yoruba Nation, the Southwesterners rose up and dealt with them that no, don't turn our region to a violence region. So there are several issues here. We have 109 senators, 360 House of Press members. The southeastern part of the country is represented by legislators at the national level. Can they advocate for the release of Nnamdi Kanu? We have, you know what I mean? We have governors in the southeastern part of the country. It's called lobbying. And I have said it, the window is open for Nnamdi Kanu to be released. All we need to do is for the Attorney General to say, okay, we are no longer proceeding with this matter. It has happened before. Even when somebody is convicted. You remember the case of Dariye, the former governor of Plateau State. I was in the Supreme Court the day the Supreme Court confirmed his conviction. But he was granted a state pardon. So there is enormous power to fly this through, and it will, to a large extent, douse the tension in that part of the nation, even though we still need to deal with the symptoms of crime that are pervasive there. And let me say this, whether we like it or not, everything is political. Even when Jesus Christ was to be persecuted, it became political. So people said, release Barabbas for us, go and kill him and things like that. Because from my own perception, what is politics? You are interested in what is going on around you.
So you mean that the federal government has a vested interest as to detaining him, even when at some point he has been, declared innocent, given the fact that the way and manner he was brought into the country?
I have explained that if a magistrate court judges a matter, you can go to the High Court. If the High Court judges it, you can go to the Court of Appeal. If the Court of Appeal judges it, you can go to the Supreme Court. It would have been different if the Supreme Court now declared, from what we have seen, please let this guy go. Then we know that those who do not release him are now dancing on the face of the law. But don't we also dance on the face of the law in Nigeria? The Supreme Court came out with a directive of direct allocation to local government areas, this local government autonomy. Has it been implemented? So if we want to make progress in this country, justice must be given its principal place. Go and check Switzerland, Finland, Norway, some great countries across the world. They don't joke with them.
All right.
Rule of law.
We'll talk about the issue of the scale of justice in a short while, but let me just, give attention to Bishop. The Lagos lawmaker, the former Lagos lawmaker, alleged that the unrest going on in the southeast is associated with the detaining of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. How true is that statement? And do you think that the unrest going on there, which includes, the sit-at-home order and other violent crimes like, Barrister Jide talked about as kidnapping, would stop if IPOP leader Nnamdi Kanu is released and given presidential pardon?
Okay, thank you for this question. This is my candid opinion, and I know it's true. To a very large extent, there will be serenity in the southeast, to a very large extent. But we must separate criminality from pursuit of justice. Initially, like the things I know that will stop, things like sit at home, these are things that are linked to his detention. All right? But from there, that's why I have never been an advocate of legalizing arm in Nigeria. Because one thing will always lead to another. People are hungry. People are very hungry, So you can see that from agitation, some have turned it to an industry. So where the governors will have to come in is to clamp down on those people that have taken it from what it is to what they are making a living out of.
All right.
All right.
So at that point, we really get your point. Now, let me fall back to you quickly. In just 30 seconds, do you think the way the issue of Sunday Igboho's case was handled as against that of Nnamdi Kanu, does it in any way show the scale of justice is balanced?
You see, a wise man said, in life, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. So I won't say more than that.
That's a beautiful way to leave the conversation. Thank you so much, Barrister Jide Ologun, legal